الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We continue inshallah ta'ala with the wasiyah of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu in the subject of al-ilm and the ulama and the people of knowledge and the importance of it. And as we heard and as we will hear inshallah ta'ala, these jawahir or really pieces of very precious statements that comes from someone that understood the wahi from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the importance of the subject of al-ilm, which is the ilm of al-Quran wa sunnah, that requires for those who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave them the ability to take from it the best that they can and to be upon that path that those who before they were upon and they were steadfast upon it, and to have the patience and to seek rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we stopped where he says, continuing to describe the people of knowledge, he said, قوله هجم بهم العلم على حقيقة الأمر فاستلانوا ما استوعره المترفون وأنسوا بما استوحش منه الجاهلون. So this is what he says here, هجم بهم العلم. هجم. He says, ابن القيم رحمه الله, الهجوم على الرجل الدخول عليه بلا استئذان. The word hujum or hajam is used for when someone attacks someone else. They use it in war even. Or they use it in sports. One team hajam, that means the offense, attacking the other team, things like this. So he says, al-hujum ala rajul, upon a man, is when someone enters without a permission. And that's what the attack is. So something that comes without even a person permit for it to happen. So he says, هَجَمَ بِهِمُ الْعِلْمِ. The ilm came unto them, the effect of it affected them without permission, meaning the effect of ilm overpowers. And that's the barakah of the ilm. That which, before we continue, one of the great important matters with ilm, that you don't know the effect of it before you have it, before you taste it. So it's only people can know, as they say, rusum, statements, images of things. Because since the place of al-ilm is the heart, so no one can really give the description of something that is tasted by the heart. A person has to experience it. It has to be in one's heart for a person to be able to see it. And the barakah and the blessings of al-ilm is that a person would take the means for it, and then if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will goodness with a person, what's in the heart of someone or the people of knowledge is, as he's going to explain, is something that is beyond the joy of this life. Something is reminds the people of knowledge of the na'im and the delight of Jannah. But that cannot be described with the hiss, with the senses of the person. This is a personal enjoyment and a personal taste. So هَجَمَ بِهِمُ الْعِلْمِ. So then he says, and this is what Ibn al-Qayyim is going to explain here, he always repeated in his books. He says, وَلَمَّا كَانَتْ طَرِيقُ الْآخِرَةِ وَعِرَةً عَلَى أَكْثَرِ الْخَلْقِ. When the path of the hereafter has been always wa'ira, wa'ira, that means it's very rough, the road, when it has so much roughness on the road and holes and things like this, for most of the people. Most of the people, the path to the hereafter is a very difficult one. And when they look at the path of the hereafter and the path of the desires of this world, from the first instant like this, they would choose the worldly one because that's what the desires, and that's how the Jannah is covered with al-makarih, with the dislikes, and the hellfire is covered with the lust and the desires. So most of the people, because they judge their hiss, their senses only. لمخالفتها لشهواتهم ومباينتها لإراداتهم ومألوفاتهم. Because it stays away, it's away from their desires and their wills and what they're used to. And because of that, قل سالكوها وزهدهم فيها قلة علمهم أو عدمه بحقيقة الأمر وعاقبة العباد ومصيرهم. So that's why very less those who would take the path of the hereafter and they have zuhd in it, turned away from it because of the lack of knowledge the deficiency in the knowledge or the lack of the knowledge completely of it, by the reality of the matter of this path that they're supposed to take and the outcome at the end of things, and their masir, which is the final destination. وَمَا هُيِّئُ لَهُ وَهُيِّئَ لَهُم, and what's have been prepared for them and what they are been prepared for. We are being prepared for the hereafter, and the hereafter is being prepared for us. And there's no way out, as we said. No one can quit on the way. Everybody's going that way. So فَقَلَّ عِلْمُهُمْ بِذَلِكَ. So most of the people, they have very small knowledge in this, or they lack the knowledge of the way and the nature of the path of the hereafter. وَاسْتَلَانُوا مَرْكَبَ الشَّهْوَةِ وَالْهَوَى عَلَى مَرْكَبِ الْإِخْلَاصِ وَالتَّقْوَى. So this is what he says. هَجَمَ بِهِمُ الْعِلْمَ عَلى حَقِيقَةِ الْأَمْرِ. So the people of knowledge, the knowledge comes to them like al-hujum, like this, to make them see the reality of things, where most people, they don't see it. And again, it's the Al-Quran was Sunnah, so that nobody would have false feelings and he feels that this is the reality of the matter and so on. We have to always go back to the what is clear from the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So فَاسْتَلَانُوا مَا اسْتَوْعَرَهُ الْمُتْرَفُونَ. So the people of the dunya, or the people of sins, those who are turned away from the path of the hereafter, istalanu, from a lean. A lean is the softness. Istalanu, that means they sought the leniency and the softness of markab al-shahwa, what carries them to fulfill their desires. It's easier. The easiest thing in this life is just to follow your desire. وَالْهَوَى عَلَى مَرْكَبِ الْإِخْلَاصِ وَالتَّقْوَى. To ride on the ikhlas, wa taqwa, sincerity, and to fear Allah from a distance. This is the difficult, or this is the more difficult path. وَتَوْعَرَتْ عَلَيْهِمُ الطَّرِيقُ. So the path becomes rough on them. وَبَعُدَتِ الشُّقَّةِ. And the distance becomes prolonged for them. وَصَعُبَ عَلَيْهِمُ ارْتَقَى عِقَابِهَا وَهُبُوطُ أَوْدِيَتِهَا وَسُلُوكُ شِعَابِهَا. Is giving some examples of how the road, when it's rough, very difficult to go in the higher places, go down into the valleys, to go to the shi'ab and the sha'ab between the mountains and so on. So it's a difficult path. Therefore, فأخلدوا إلى الدعاة والراحة وآثروا العاجل على الآجل. So most of the people would rely and stay in the relaxation and the rest, and would make ithar, choose the immediate over the later one. وقالوا عيشنا اليوم نقد وموعودنا نسيئة. Our life now, they would say, our life now is naqd, is cash, is present in our hand. وموعودنا, what we have been promised with, is nasi'a, is deferred. So take advantage of what you have now. فنظروا, he keeps on saying, فنظروا إلى عاجل الدنيا وأغمضوا العيون عن أجلها أو آجلها ووقفوا مع ظاهر منها ولم يتأملوا باطنها وذاقوا حلاوة مباديها وغاب عنهم مرارة عواقبها. He keeps explaining the nature of this life and how the people, those who are attached to it, they looked into the immediate desire of this worldly life. They closed their eyes on what comes after. They stood with the apparent things in it. They did not reflect upon the inward and behind the physical means in this life. They tasted the sweetness of the immediate things. There is sweetness in this life, but that's mabadiha, what it appears. So the covering things of this life is sweet. In هذه الدنيا حلوة خضرة. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said, this dunya is sweet and it's green. But then وغاب عنهم, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as he says, وغاب عنهم مرارة عواقبها. So when they are away from them and absent from them, the bitterness of the end of this worldly life, if they continue to just follow their desires in it. وَدَرَّ لَهُمْ ثَدْيُهَا فَطَابَ لَهُمْ الْإِرْتِضَاعُ. He gives also the example of this dunya, like a mother is breastfeeding the child, so they enjoy that. وَاشْتَغَلُوا بِهِ عَنِ التَّفَكُّرِ فِي الْفِطَامِ. So they want to be always being like a breastfed child and never think of weaning themselves. So that made them busy not to wean themselves from the attachment of this worldly life. وَمَرَارَةِ الْإِنْقِطَاعِ, and the bitterness of being detached. And all of these things that Allah created, it's for people to reflect how we as human beings, we go from one stage to the other. It's all for the people of intellect to look into these physical means and to take evidences from it and wisdom from it, so that it would help them to establish the عبودية to Allah. وقال مغترهم بالله وجاحدهم لعظمته وربوبيته متمثلا في ذلك. He mentioned quoting some of those who would say some lines of even of poetry, those who are deceived by this worldly life and overlooking the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. خذ ما تراه ودع شيئا سمعت به. Take what you see and leave what you have heard of. وأما القائمون. This is now after talking about the people of those who are in forgetfulness. Now وأما القائمون لله بحجته. As for those, the people of knowledge, those who are upright with the hujaj, with the evidences from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quran and the Sunnah. خلفاء نبيه في أمته. The successors of the Prophet in his ummah. فإنهم لكمال علمهم وقوته نفذ بهم إلى حقيقة الأمر. Because of the perfect and the strength of their knowledge, نفذ بهم. And nufudh is when you go from one thing through, goes to the other side. Like a nail to the wall goes to the other side. So نفذ بهم, this knowledge made them go to the reality of things. They're not just attached to the apparent things of this worldly life. It's not just the hiss and the senses, because the wahy, the revelation from Allah, works on what's beyond the five senses of the human being, which is the unseen, which is the reality of this life. So this is what the ilm does to them. So they're never deceived with the materialistic things. وَهَجَمَ بِهِمْ عَلَيْهِ. And that's what the ilm took them like this, into the reality of things. فَعَايَنُوا بِبَصَائِرِهِمْ مَا عَشَتْ عَنْهُ بَصَائِرُ الْجَاهِلِينَ. So they saw with their own basair, with their own vision, which is the ability of the heart to see, what the basair or the eyesight of the ignorant ones, عَشَت, that means they're blind from seeing it. فاطمأنت قلوبهم به وعملوا على الوصول إليه لما باشرها من روح اليقين. So their heart became in state of tranquility. They act upon it till they reach their final destination because of the spirit of al-yaqeen and certainty in their hearts. All of that is the blessings and the outcome and the results of al-ilm. رفع لهم علم السعادة فشمروا إليه وأسمعهم منادي الإيمان النداء فاستبقوا إليه واستيقنت أنفسهم ما وعدهم به ربهم فزهدوا فيما سواه ورغبوا فيما لديه. The flag of happiness has been raised for them, so they see it from a distance, so they are working diligently to reach it. The caller of al-Iman made them hear his call, so they are in haste and they are in race. وسابقوا إلى مغفرة من ربكم وفي ذلك فليتنافس المتنافسون. They're competing with one another who would go first. And their nafs has the yaqeen for what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised them. فَزَهَدُوا فِيمَا سِوَاهُ. So the zuhd for them is in turning away from anything else. وَرَغِبُوا فِيمَا لَدَيْهِ. And they have the zeal of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what's with Allah. عَلِمُوا أَنَّ الدُّنْيَا دَارُ مَمَرٍ لَا دَارُ مَقَرٍ. They know that the dunya is a passing place, not a settling place. وَمَنْزُ الْعُبُورِ لَا مَقْعَدْ حُبُورِ. All opposites, the manzil, house or dwelling of عبور, to cross from one point to the other, not a place of settling. وَأَنَّا خَيَالُ طَيْفٍ أَوْ سَحَابَةُ صَيْفٍ. It's like something, image that a person would see, or the summer cloud that doesn't even stay long. وأن من فيها كراكب قال تحت ظل شجرة ثم راح عنها وتركها, as the Prophet ﷺ said. And the one in this dunya is like a rider, traveler. He rests under the shade of a tree for some time and then he leaves it and he goes back to his journey. This is how this entire journey on the face of earth is, like that moments that he would take a nap under the tree. وتيقنوا أنها, and they had the certainty that this life أحلام نوم أو كظل زائر إن اللبيب بمثلها لا يخدع. This is dreams of someone sleeping, shade that does not stay forever. Al-Labib, the one that is smart, by the like of this, he would never be deceived. وأن وصفها صدق في وصفها إذ يقول أرى أشقياء الناس لا يسأمونها على أنهم فيها عراة وجوعوا. أراها وإن كانت تحب فإنها سحابة صيف عن قليل تقشع. He says, I see the ashqiya, the perished ones, the ruined ones of the people, they don't get bored of this worldly life, even if they are naked and hungry. So I see it that when كانت تحب, this worldly life is to be loved. No one can doubt that. And there's nothing wrong with having enjoyment in this life. But never to forget that it's سحابة صيف. It's a summer cloud. It doesn't stay long. It's very light. عن قليل تقشع, very soon it goes away. So when they knew that, فترحلت عن قلوبهم مدبرة كما ترحلت عن أهلها مولية وأقبلت الآخرة إلى قلوبهم مسرعة كما أسرعت إلى الخلق مقبلة. See, it's not just things that makes a person turned away from something that is good. No, this is the reality of it. So they choose to have their hearts turned away from it, from this worldly attachment, as this dunya is turned away from its people, because it's going to be taken away from them. And the hereafter come to their hearts, to the people of knowledge, very fast, as the hereafter is coming very fast to the people. So either you choose to go or it's coming to you. Right? So this is the choice, because it's either or. It's not like if you don't go to it, you're going to be then in a different situation. No, it's coming to you. It's coming fast to you. So you to badir, that means you beat it. You the one to go to it, and that's the benefit comes in here. So that makes it easy for the person to take that path, because it's coming anyway. فامتطوا ظهور العزائم وهجروا لذة المنام وما ليل المحب بنام. So then they took the backs of the determination. المطي is when you ride on a horse and you go very fast. So this is what they did with al-azaim, with the determinations. وهجروا لذة المنام, and they turned away, away, migrated from the enjoyment of just being sleepy and lazy. وما ليل المحب بنائم. The night of the one that is in state of love is not really going to have deep sleep. علموا طول الطريق وقلة المقام في منزل التزود فسارعوا في الجهاز وجد بهم السير إلى منازل الأحباب فقطعوا المراحل وطووا المفاز أو المفاوز. So journey, the explanation of someone in the desert in his journey, they know that the path is long, and they say the path that they're staying only for a short period of time, so they take the provisions, and جد بهم السير, they go diligently in the path so that they can reach the places of their loved ones. So it doesn't matter to them when they pass the deserts and the different stage from one to the other. He says هذا كله من ثمرات اليقين. This is all from the ثمرات, the fruits of the certainty. فإن القلب إذا استيقن ما أمامه من كرامة الله وما أعد لأوليائه بحيث كأنه ينظر إليه من وراء حجاب الدنيا. اليقين, which is the certainty in the heart, once it's established in the heart that a person sees the honor from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to his awliya, to his loved ones, and what he prepared for them, the yaqeen makes the person sees beyond the hijab of this dunya. So the dunya covers that. And the people of knowledge and the people of al-yaqeen, they see from beyond this hijab, because this is the matter of al-ghayb. ويعلم أنه إذا زال الحجاب رأى ذلك عيانا. He knows that if this hijab is removed, he sees it clearly. زالت عنه الوحشة التي يجدها المتخلفون ولان له ما استوعره المترفون. So then the wahsha, or being lonely, goes away, and becomes easy and soft for them. What al-mutrafun, which is the statement that he mentioned here, those who are al-mutrafun. Al-mutraf is the one that living luxuriously in this life, attached to it. So the people of knowledge, that goes away from them. All of that is because of the yaqeen. وهذه المرتبة هي أول مراتب اليقين. Now he's going to talk briefly about the different levels of al-yaqeen, since the yaqeen is mentioned here. And that's basically what the knowledge and the relationship between knowledge and yaqeen. Because the yaqeen that comes as a result of the ilm. Because what is yaqeen? Certainty. Certainty in what? And not in the materialistic things, certainty in what the ilm comes with. And this is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for those who are seekers of knowledge. So then they become comfort, they have the comfort. وَأَنِسُوا بِمَا اسْتَوْحَشَ مِنْهُ الْجَاهِلُونَ. The ignorant ones, they feel lonely in whatever they feel lonely in. The people of knowledge, they are not. Why? Because of the yaqeen. So the first level of al-yaqeen, وهو علمه وتيقنه وهو انكشاف المعلوم للقلب بحيث يشاهده ولا يشك فيه كانكشاف المرئي للبصر. The first level, not the highest level. The first level of al-yaqeen, his knowledge, his certainty, which is inkishaf, when the ma'loom, what is known with the knowledge, becomes uplifts the hidden part of it so that it becomes the heart seeing it. So the heart is seeing it and he has no doubt, exactly like al-mar'i, when something that you see with your own eyes is uncovered. Something that is covered and you see it with your own eyes, that the curtain is removed, then you see physically. So that's what the yaqeen is the same level of certainty, like the eye sees, the heart sees the same thing, which is even stronger. And as mentioned before, the way that the constant seeking knowledge and applying what we learn, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is shakur, the most grateful. As a result of that, for the believers, they believe the wahy more than believing what their eyes are seeing. The revelation from Allah becomes more seen with their own eyes of their hearts, more than what their eyes would see. So this is the first level. The second level, which is a higher level, which is martabatu ayn al-yaqeen. The ayn al-yaqeen, ayn is the eye. ونسبتها إلى العين كنسبة الأول إلى القلب. So the نسبتها إلى العين, how it's related to the eyes is like the first one to the heart. So عين اليقين, as if a person now is seeing it with his own eyes. Then the third one, حق اليقين, which is مباشرة المعلوم. And عين اليقين is the physical seeing. And I always give the example of, you hear about something, you know that it's there and you have certainty in it, no doubt about it whatsoever, but you never see it. Someone describes to you a dish or a country or whatever. You hear about it, but you never seen it. When you see it, this is Ainul Yaqeen. Now you see what you have been told. And the third one, Haqqul Yaqeen, the haqq, the reality of the certainty, وهي مباشرة المعلوم وإدراكه الإدراك التام. When the mubashara happens, when a person is then now dealing with it physically, and he has the perfect idrak, or attaining the comprehending it. So what's the example? فالأولى كعلمك بأن في هذا الوادي ماء, like the knowledge that you have that in this valley there is water. And the second level كرؤيته, the second level of yaqeen is when you see the water. And the third one كالشرب منه, when you drink from the water. So the first one is al-yaqeen, the first level of al-yaqeen. The second one is aynul yaqeen, when you see it. And the third one is when you drink from it, that means you already have it in you. He says, ومن هذا ما يروى في حديث حارثة وقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. This is what has been mentioned in the hadith, even though the hadith is weak, where the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام said, كيف أصبحت يا حارثة? How you find yourself in the morning, O Haritha? He said, أصبحت مؤمنا حقا. He said, I feel in the morning, أصبحت, that means I'm in the morning, مؤمنا, true iman, true belief. So he says, the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام said, إن لكل قول حقيقة فما حقيقة إيمانك? Every statement has a reality to it. So what's the reality of your iman that you're saying? قال عزفت نفسي عن الدنيا شهواتي. My nafs turned away from the shahwat and the desires of this world. فأسهرت ليلي وأظمأت نهاري. So I made my night awake for the salah, for the ibadah, and fasting during the day. وكأني أنظر إلى عرش ربي بارزا, as if I see the throne of my Lord. وكأني أنظر إلى أهل الجنة يتزاورون فيها, and as if I see the people of Jannah visiting one another. وإلى أهل النار يتعاوون فيها, and the people of the hellfire screaming in it. فقال عبد نور الله قلبه. So he said, this is a abd that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave light to his heart. But again, the hadith is weak. He says, فهذا هو هجوم العلم بصاحبه على حقيقة الأمر. So this is the hujum, he's describing this meaning of هجوم العلم. ومن وصل إلى هذا استلان ما يستوعبه المترفون. When a person reaches that state, then it becomes so soft and lenient for him. What those who are luxuriously living in this world is difficult for them. وأنس بما يستوحش منه الجاهلون ومن لم يثبت قدم إيمانه على هذه الدرجة فهو إيمان ضعيف. Whoever his foot is not firm upon this level, that means his iman is weak. His iman is weak. And as you see when the comparison between those who are the most enjoyable, or those who enjoy this worldly life the most from the physical perspective, The people of knowledge and the people of al-Iman, their enjoyment in their Iman and in their knowledge is far more than this physical enjoyment of the other ones. And that's basically what it means. وعلامة هذا, and the sign of that, انشراح الصدر لمنازل الإيمان وانفساحه وطمأنينة القلب لأمر الله والإنابة إلى ذكر الله. So the heart is spacious enough for the levels of al-Iman and the tranquility in the heart with the commands of Allah, returning to the dhikr of Allah, the love of Allah, to enjoy meeting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. والتجافي عن دار الغرور, to detach oneself from the world of deception, as in al-athar al-mashhur, إذا دخل النور القلب انفسح وانشرح. If the light enters the heart, it opens up. قيل وما علامة ذلك, what's the sign of that? التجافي عن دار الغرور والإنابة إلى دار الخلود والاستعداد للموت قبل نزوله. To be away from the deceiving world and to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is the everlasting one, and to prepare oneself for death before it comes to the person. And this is mursal from the statements of some of the tabi'in. He says هذه هي الحال التي كانت تحصل للصحابة. This is the state that the Sahaba radiallahu anhum used to have when they were with the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام. إذا ذكرهم الجنة والنار. When the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام talks about the Jannah and the hellfire, this is what they would go through. كما في الترمذي, as the famous hadith of حنظلة that we heard many times. وغير من حديث الجريري عن أبي عثمان النهدي عن حنظلة الأزدي. وكان من كتاب النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. حنظلة was one of those whose scribes writing أنه مر بأبي بكر رضي الله عنه وهو يبكي. He passed by Abu Bakr and he was weeping. فقال ما لك يا حنظلة. So Abu Bakr said to him, what's wrong with you, O Hanzala? Why are you weeping? قال نافق حنظلة يا أبا بكر. Hanzala is a hypocrite, O Abu Bakr. نكون عند رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يذكرنا بالجنة والنار. When we're with the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم, he reminds us of the Jannah and the fire كأن رأي عين, as if we see it with our own eyes. This is the certainty. فإذا رجعنا إلى الأزواج والضيعة نسينا كثيرا. If we go back to the spouses and the land and what we own, we forget lots of that. Forgetting what? Forgetting that means the heart is changed from that عين اليقين. The yaqeen is still there. The certainty is there. But that state that the heart is in changes, which is the normal thing for the human being. قال فوالله إنا لكذلك. He says, والله, Abu Bakr says, والله, we are the same thing. انطلق بنا إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. Let's go to the Messenger صلى الله عليه وسلم. فانطلقنا فلما رآه رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال ما لك يا حنظلة. قال نافق حنظلة يا رسول الله. The same thing. نكون عندك, without translating it, so we already know it. نكون عندك, we with you. تذكرنا بالنار والجنة كأن رأي عين. فإذا رجعنا عافسنا الأزواج والضيع ونسينا كثيرا. So after he said that to the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام said to him, فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لو تدومون على الحال التي تقومون بها من عندي لصافحتكم الملائكة في مجالسكم وفي طرقكم وعلى فرشكم ولكن يا حنظلة ساعة وساعة. قال الترمذي حديث حسن صحيح. If you تدومون, if you're continuously in that state that you have when you are with me, the angels would shake your hands in your gatherings and your paths and on your beds. But O Hanzala, sa'a wa sa'a, 1 hour like this, 1 hour like that. So what's the important of it is that 1 hour of the state of this, the certainty. Because the other hour, this is what we're expert in. No one needs to be taught how to enjoy himself in this life. Of course, with ilm, in the mubah, in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permitted. And if someone does not recognize the need of himself as a human being, he can break himself. If someone thinks that it has to be the sa'a and the after sa'a, with certainty, even with matters of knowledge and so on, and he does not take a rest, he'll break. Very soon he will break. And this is against the nature of the human beings. So there has to be the enjoyment and the physical enjoyment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala permitted. But if someone is like this, where is the sa'a of certainty? Where is this hour that a person would sit and he is reminded of the Jannah and the hellfire and the reality of things and so on, which is the ilm, which is the subject of al-ilm, which is durusul ilm, the sessions of ilm, the Quran and the Sunnah, the Prophet ﷺ, for a person to learn it, so it becomes a must. And the more there are distractions that makes the person forget, the more that it becomes obligatory upon the person to make sure that he has this hour of certainty. And it's not just with tafakkur, it's with seeking knowledge. ويقول وهذا معنى قول بعض السلف. This is also the meaning of some of the Salaf when they said القلوب جوالة فقلب حول الحش وقلب يطوف مع الملائكة حول العرش. القلوب جوالة, the hearts جوالة, like جولة, goes all over the place. فقلب حول الحش, a heart goes around الحش, and الحش is the place where people relieve themselves. Some of the hearts, this is where it goes around the places of najasat, like the sins and the like of that. وقلب يطوف مع الملائكة, and a heart that is going around with the angels حول العرش, around the throne of Allah. And that's the combination between the soul and the physical body. The physical body pulls down to where it's created from, which is the earth, and the soul pulls up. The person should pull him up to higher levels, because the soul min amri rabbi. And the struggle in this life is not to serve the body in such a way that would ignore the soul, and not to ignore the body at the same time, because that's the markab. This is the transportation. This is what the soul is carried in. So you need to make sure that you take care of your transportation, or what the soul is in. It's like your car. Some people, their cars is their goal. Car is a mean to take you from one place to the other. So you want to go from point A to point B. So if you give all of your energy, all of your power to the car, then you forget your destination, what it's supposed to be for. So the same thing with this relationship. So therefore, فَأَعْظَمُ. Now what's the most punishment of the soul? If you want to torture your soul, انغماسها وتدسيسها في أعماق البدن. When you dip your soul, وتدسيسها, تدسيس الدس is when you stuff something forcefully in the deep parts of your body. That you stack your soul on your body. You want to make your soul like your body. There are two natures. So when people make their souls immersed in the materialist or the materialistic things of the body. واشتغالها بملاذه, and for the soul to be busy with the enjoyment of the physical body. وانقطاعها عن ملاحظة ما خلقت له, and to detach it from looking in what it's been created for. So the physical body is not the place where you look and you reflect and you see where you're heading and what you've been created for. This is the job of the soul. وهيئت له وعن وطنها ومحل أنسها ومنزل كرامتها, and to take the soul away from its place of tranquility and the honoring it. ولكن سكر الشهوات يحجبها عن مطالعة هذا الألم والعذاب. So the intoxication of the desires covers the soul from seeing the alam. So this is torturing the soul. But why the torture is not felt? Because of the intoxication of the desires. So فإذا صحت من سكرها, if the intoxication is gone, وأفاقت من غمرتها, and is awakened from its this delusion that it was in, أقبلت عليها جيوش الحسرات من كل جانب. All types of regret come to it, and it becomes in so much regret. فحينئذ تتقطع حسرات على ما فاتها من كرامة الله وقربه والأنس به. The حسرات and the regret will be so much that it tears it, because it missed what it's supposed to be attained. والوصول إلى وطنها الذي لا راحة لها إلا فيه, and for it to reach its watan, its real place, that there's no tranquility for it except in it. As some said, صحبتك إذ عيني عليها غشاوة فلما انجلت قطعت نفسي ألومها. I was your companion with you, but my eyes was covered. So when the covering of my eyes was removed, I tore myself with regret that he didn't see what was covered before. ولو تنقلت الروح في المواطن كلها والمنازل لم تستقر ولم تطمئن إلا في وطنها ومحلها الذي خلقت له. So the soul has been created for something. So if a person does not purify his soul, if it goes everywhere, if it does whatever it goes and you fulfill all kinds of desires, it's not going to have the istiqrar and the goodness and the tranquility except in its place and what's it been created for, which is to be attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and matters of al-iman. نقل فؤادك حيث شئت من الهوى ما الحب إلا للحبيب الأول كم منزل في الأرض يألفه الفتى وحنينه أبدا لأول منزل, which is a famous lines of poetry that take your heart from one place to the other of desires. The real love is the first one, right? How many places on the face of earth a person get acquainted with, you move from one place to the other, but your haneen, your attachment is always to the first place, and that's why people are attached to what they were when they were young and the thing of what they're raised for. So this is referring again to the soul. The place of it is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if it's away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's misery unless a person bring it back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says وإذا كانت الروح تحن أبدا إلى وطنها من الأرض مع قيام غيره مقامه في السكنة وكثيرا ما يكون غير وطنها أحسن وأطيب منه وهي إنما تحن إليه مع أنه لا ضرر عليها ولا عذاب في مفارقتي إلى مثله فكيف بحنينها إلى الوطن الذي في فراقها له عذابها وألمها وحسرتها التي لا تنقضي. So if comparing, if it's in this worldly life, a person might go away from his hometown and the place that he goes to is more comfortable, it's very nice and everything, but his always heart is attached to the first place, even though there's no harm on him. So how is it then when the soul is taken away from its original place, which is the Jannah? This is what Allah subhanahu, this is what Adam alayhi salam was in Jannah, and then he was removed from Jannah. So the hearts, the souls of the human beings, if it's purified, they have this haneen, or this feel that they want to return back to their original place, which is, as he's going to be mentioning later, the lines of poetry of Ibn al-Qayyim himself in his Mimiyya. That his lines of poetry ends with meme, very beautiful ones that talks about Jannah and things like this, and also talks about matters of Hajj. So he says, فالعبد المؤمن في هذه الدار سبي من الجنة إلى دار التعب والعناء. The believer in this worldly life, and the more the person perfects his iman in this life, is like someone that has been captured away from his hometown to the place of tiring and suffering. ثم ضرب عليه الرق, then he is enslaved. فكيف يلام على حنينه, so he's always thinking about his original place and how he used to enjoy the peace and the happiness. التي سبي منها وفرق بينه وبين من يحب, and he's been separated from the ones that he loves. وجمع بينه وبين عدوه, but instead he's with his enemies. فروحه دائما معلقة بذلك الوطن وبدنه في الدنيا. So his soul is always attached to his original place and his body is in this worldly life. ولي من أبيات في ذلك, this is the Mimiyya of Ibn al-Qayyim, and he has it as it's mentioned in the footnote in the book of طريق الهجرتين, and the beautiful book هادي الأرواح إلى بلاد الأفراح. He has a book about Jannah, Ibn al-Qayyim, هادي الأرواح, and this is the title of it. هادي al-Hadi is the one that pulls the caravan, or the one that sings and people follow. Al-Arwah, the souls, to بلاد الأفراح, to the places, to the towns of happiness and joy, which is Jannah. So the first two lines, فحي على جنات عدن فإنها منازلك الأولى وفيها المخيم ولكننا سبي العدو فهل ترى نعود إلى أوطاننا ونسلم. حي, come to the Jannat of Adn, because this is your first place, this is your original place. Your father was in it first. وفيها المخيم, this is what you're going to be established and staying there. But now we are سبي العدو, the enemy captured us. So فهل ترى, he's asking, do you think that we will return back to our towns and our countries, which is the Jannah, ونسلم, and to be safe? وكلما أراد منه العدو نسيان وطنه وضرب الذكر عنه صفحة وإلافه وطنا غيره أبد ذلك روحه وقلبه. And the enemy and the shaitan, he wants to forget this. So the more he does this and more that he makes him unaware of this, the ruh and the heart would always still yearn to it. يراد من القلب نسيانكم وتأبى الطباع على الناقل. It cannot be. ولهذا كان المؤمن غريبا. That's why the believer is غريب in this world. أين حل منها فهو في دار غربة. And this is by the mercy of Allah. The more the person complete his iman, the more that he feel that he's a stranger in this life. This is not his place, because the place is in the hereafter, and he's going to again either leave it or it's going to leave him. كما قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كن في الدنيا كأنك غريب أو عابر سبيل. Be in this worldly life as if you're a stranger or a wayfarer. ولكنها غربة تنقضي. But this غربة, the strangeness goes away, and he would return to his watan, to his original place. وأما الغربة التي لا يرجى انقطاعها فهي غربة في دار الهوان. The غربة, the real strangeness that it's never going to end, which is in the humiliating abode, which is in the hellfire. ومفارقة وطنه الذي كان قد هيئ له وأعد له وأمر بالتجهز إليه والقدوم عليه فأبى إلا اغترابه عنه. To be away from what we have been prepared for. So the original place, which is Jannah, but people would go to the hellfire instead. فتلك غربة لا يرجى إيابها ولا يجبر مصابها. The worst غربة that is never going to be fixed. ولا تبادر إلى إنكار كون البدن في الدنيا والروح في الملأ الأعلى فللروح شأن وللبدن شأن. Do not be in haste to say that the body is in this world and the ruh is in the highest level. The ruh, the soul, has its affairs and the body has its affairs. والنبي صلى الله عليه وسلم كان بين أظهر أصحابه وهو عند ربي يطعمه ويسقيه فبدنه بينهم وروحه وقلبه عند ربي. The Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, when he would be with his companions, as he said that when he would fast one day after the other without breaking the fast in between, and he would say to them that أبيت عند ربي يطعمني ويسقيني. I spend the night with my Lord, he feeds me and he gives me drink, but no physical food is coming. So this is what he says, this is how the body and the soul has its different ways. قال أبو الدرداء إذا نام العبد عرج بروحه إلى تحت العرش فإن كان طاهرا أذن لها بالسجود وإن لم يكن طاهرا لم يؤذن لها بالسجود. This is a weak narration, but that's from Abu Darda. If the abd sleeps, his soul goes to under the throne, and if it's pure, it will be permitted for it to make sujood, and if it's not pure, it's not permitted. فيقول فهذه والله أعلم هي العلة التي أمر الجنب لأجلها أن يتوضأ إذا أراد النوم. He says maybe, but Allah knows best. There's no evidence to that the junub, when a person is in state of janaba, is to make wudu at least before he goes to sleep. وهذا الصعود, the last part in explaining this sentence, وهذا الصعود إنما كان لتجرد الروح عن البدن بالنوم فإذا تجردت بسبب آخر حصل لها من الترقي والصعود بحسب ذلك التجرد. The soul when a person sleep goes up. وقد يقوى الحب بالمحب حتى لا يشاهد منه بين الناس إلا جسمه. The more the love is established, his body is there, but his روح, his soul is in a different place عند محبوبه. وفي هذا من أشعار الناس وحكاياته ما هو معروف. So this is all with, and what he mentioned about the yaqeen, and when he said صاحب الدنيا بأبدان أرواحها معلقة بالملأ الأعلى, that the people of knowledge, they are in this worldly life with their body, but their souls are attached to al-Mala'i al-A'la, to the highest level of things. This is how they are because of, again, the barakah and the blessings of al-ilm. Then he says, أولئك خلفاء الله في أرضه ودعاة إلى دينه. The people of knowledge are خلفاء الله, the successors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala entrusted them with things in this world. ودعاة, and they are the callers to Allah, to His religion. هذا حجة أحد القولين في أنه يجوز أن يقال فلان خليفة الله في أرضه. This is one of the evidence that a person can say so and so is Khalifatullah. Khalifatullah, the successor of Allah, but it's not any holiness for the individual. It means that he has been entrusted by Allah to fulfill the commands of Allah. واحتج أصحابه أيضا, and also they said as an evidence that this is a permissible statement when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to the angels, إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة. I'm making a khalifa, a successor on the face of earth. Also, وهو الذي جعلكم خلائف الأرض. And this is to all mankind. Allah says He's the one that made you خلائف الأرض. You succeed one after the other, which is another meaning. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء ويجعلكم خلفاء الأرض. Who's the one that answers the dua of the muttar, the one in necessity, and يكشف السوء, and He removes the harm, and made you خلفاء. And from the very beginning and one generation after the other. And Musa alayhi salam said to his people, عسى ربكم أن يهلك عدوكم ويستخلفكم في الأرض. Maybe that Allah will destroy your enemy and يستخلفكم, made you the successors on the face of earth, فينظر كيف تعملون, and he would see what you do. And the Prophet عليه الصلاة والسلام, he said, إن الله ممكن لكم في الأرض. Allah will make you established on the face of earth, ومستخلفكم فيها, and he would make you successors on this earth. فناظر كيف تعملون, and he will see how you act. فاتقوا الدنيا واتقوا النساء, shield yourself from the dunya, shield yourself from the women, the sinful acts that comes from there. واحتجوا بقول الراعي يخاطب أبا بكر الصديق رضي الله عنه. Also they took that from the shepherd when he was speaking to Abu Bakr رضي الله عنه, أخليفة الرحمن إن معشر حنفاء نسجد بكرة وأصيلا عرب نرى أو عرب نرى لله في أموالنا حق الزكاة منزلا تنزيلا. So that means we are خليفة الرحمن. He called him خليفة الرحمن again because he is fulfilling the commands of Allah. So that in this part he's saying, some said that what it means, in the other group they said you don't say he's Khalifatullah, because the Khalifa is usually the word that is used when the first one is absent, so he's acting on his behalf. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that is all witnessing to everyone. So they say that what it means then, the Khalifa in the Quran, that means that you succeed one another, you come after one another. So it depends on how it's explained, of course, but this is what he mentioned first. And what the Prophet ﷺ said, Wallahu khalifati ala kulli mu'min. Allah is my successor upon every believer. That means بل هو سبحانه الذي يخلف عبده المؤمن فيكون خليفته. So that means he take care of him. And also in the dua for traveling, اللهم أنت الصاحب في السفر والخليفة في الأهل. Oh Allah, you are الصاحب, the one that accompany us in the traveling, والخليفة في الأهل. That means we leave you. If it's, he's the one that is taking care of our families. They're not alone. We left them, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is our Khalifa في الأهل. So this is the meaning of it. وفي الصحيح أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم said, اللهم اغفر لأبي سلمة وارفع درجته في المهديين واخلفه في أهله. The dua and واخلفه في أهله, and replace for him what is best in his family. فالله تعالى هو خليفة العبد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Khalifa of the abd, of the slave of Allah. لأن العبد يموت فيحتاج إلى من يخلفه في أهله. Because the person dies and he needs someone to take care of his family. This is the meaning of the Khalifa. And that's why ولهذا أنكر الصديق رضي الله عنه على من قال له يا خليفة الله. He forbade someone to say that to him, O Khalifa of Allah. قال لست بخليفة الله. He said, I'm not the Khalifa of Allah, ولكن خليفة رسول الله. But rather I'm the Khalifa of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, because he came after the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. وحسبي ذلك. This is sufficient for me. He says, قال وأما قوله تعالى إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة فلا خلاف أن المراد, what is meant, then now going back to the ayat, that this is Adam, of course, and the Jumhur, the majority of the Mufassirin, that he's been made Khalifa from those who were before him on the face of earth. They were creation of Allah on the earth. It was said to be the jinn, and Adam alayhi salam came after them. And وهو الذي جعلكم خلائف في الأرض. That means that he created you to be one generation comes after the other. And also for this ummah of the Prophet ﷺ, that means you're given that responsibility from the nations before. Now you're the ones that are responsible for the deen and the da'wah and so on. He says, so this is with the two meanings, and then he goes to the other ayat and how Musa alayhi salam وَيَسْتَخْلِفَكُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ, to make you in charge of the matters on the earth, to see what you're acting according to the commands of Allah. So this is all with this discussion. And then in page number 431, وَمَعْلُومٌ أَنَّ كُلَّ الْخَلْقِ عِبَادٌ لَهُ. All of the creation of Allah are slaves of Allah. فَخُلَفَاءُ الْأَرْضِ كَالْعِبَادِ فِي قَوْلِ وَاللَّهُ بَصِيرٌ بِالْعِبَادِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the all-seer of the ibad. So Khalifa, then again, the reality of the word here is الَّذِي يَخْلُفُ الذَّاهِبِ. Someone leaves and someone stays acting on his behalf. So خَلَفَ فُلَانٌ فُلَانًا. And the same thing with Khalifa and the meaning of it. So when he says that the ulama are أولئك خلفاء الله في أرضه, Ali ibn Abi Talib said the people of knowledge are khulafa'ullah fi ardi. So the meaning of khulafa'ullah, they are the khulafa of Allah. That means they are fulfilling the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and acting upon what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from them. And with dua ila dini, the real dua are the ulama. And one of the wrong things in this time that we live in, that people would classify individuals in a wrong way. They say these are dua and these are ulama. Right? So as if the ulama are not dua. And as if it's okay for a person to be da'i and not a alim. The real dua are the ulama. And the da'i has to have knowledge of what he's calling to. He doesn't have to be in the highest level of knowledge to give da'wah. Yes, he can give da'wah with whatever ilm that he has, but does not go beyond the ilm. And that's also one of the miseries. Because when a person calls to Allah and he finds that the da'wah, mashallah, is working, so either he sometimes stay away from gaining knowledge, or he even belittle knowledge, as some would even say that, or use other content of his da'wah to be other than the ilm. And he detach himself from the ulama, and then the misery continues. Wal-'iyadhu billah. So if someone wants to call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you know an ayah, بَلِّغُوا عَنِّي وَلَوْ آيَةً, as the Prophet ﷺ said, convey from me even one verse, but you know what the verse means. And you limit yourself to that one verse. And that's sufficient, that's good enough to convey. We don't have to go back and forth. And the more the person, anything that a person speak in matters of deen, it has to be, had been taught and he learned it. Or to ask the people of knowledge to avoid this confusion. So the ulama are the real dua. وقول ودعاته إلى دين الدعاء. الدعاء جمع داع كقاض وقضاء. So إذا قال ورام ورماه. وإضافتهم إلى الله الاختصاص ودعاته إلى ديني. These are the dua that they are specifically calling to the deen of Allah and the ibadah of Allah and knowing Allah and the love of Allah. Now the best of the creation of Allah. ومن أحسن قولا ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين. There's no one best in speech than someone calls to Allah and did righteous good deeds and he said, I'm among the Muslimin. This is the job of the prophets. And the prophets, they call to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with ilm. And you would see the Quran and the ayat of the Quran and the hadith of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, nothing that the prophets called the people to unless it's message from Allah, they're conveying it. So they're not calling for the sake of calling like this, but it's with the content of ilm. And then you would find, oh, the alim, he can stay and the callers go, all kinds of things that people make excuses to separate between the both. So this is basically what he says here, وَدُعَاتُهُ عَلَى دِينِهِ. And then he says, which is, this is the end what he mentioned here, but part of the wasiyah, because there's some things added, some things taken off from different versions of it. He says again, ha, which was mentioned before, شَوْقًا إِلَى رُؤْيَتِهِمْ. When he mentioned the characteristics of the people of knowledge, Ali radiallahu anhu, he says, ha, like, where are they? Like, he wished that he can see them again. Which is, again, is a way to show, of course, humbleness and the scarcity of the like of these characteristics, and that always going to be present on the face of earth, the like of that. But as mentioned before, this is not what is more common. This is what something with the level of knowledge that a person would attain, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would elevate him. And then he said, وَأَسْتَغْفِرُ اللَّهَ لِي وَلَكَ. And I seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for you, for me and for you. إِذَا شِئْتَ فَقُمْ. If you wish, you can leave. After he gave him this beautiful nasiha. So as you see here, this is one of it's a very famous narration from Ali radiallahu anhu. And as Ibn Abd al-Barr, he said that وهو حديث مشهور عند أهل العلم يستغني عن الإسناد. It's very well known and famous among the people of knowledge. They don't really look into the isnad of it. It's not something that you have to check the chain of narrations of it, لشهرته, because it's widespread and famous among them. And so this is If someone is asking about the isnad, then it's authentically proven from him. But again, the words of it and how it's widespread among the people of knowledge and the classifications that he mentioned. And even if some had mentioned that this is maybe da'if and things like that, it's because of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protected this deen with ilmul isnad, with the authentication of things. But again, some had authenticated it. And as he mentioned, it's widespread and very famous among the people of knowledge that they overlook the matters of al-isnad here, especially that it's not attributed to the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. So this is the end of what he mentioned, and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us benefit from it. Can go back and look into putting all of these things together with the classification of the people, and that's by itself to show the encouragement. I mean, the book of Miftah Dar al-Sa'ada, this was as we said, the point of number 129. And he mentioned all the way to, I forgot how many did we say? So many points. The book is big with all just the subject of ilm. And therefore the next one, which is number 130, is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, which is, I just mentioned not the whole thing, just since it's related to the last thing that we mentioned. What Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ قَوْلًا مِمَّنْ دَعَى إِلَى اللَّهِ وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا وَقَالَ إِنَّنِي مِنَ الْمُسْلِمِينَ. The ayah in Surah Fussilat. There's no one best in speech than someone called to Allah and did righteous good deeds, and he said, I'm among the Muslimin. Famous quote from Al-Hasan al-Basri, rahimahullah. He says, هو المؤمن. This is the believer. أجاب الله في دعوته. He responded, accepted the call from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, became a believer. وَدَعَى النَّاسَ إِلَى مَا أَجَابَ اللَّهَ فِيهِ مِنْ دَعْوَتِهِ. And he called the people in what he had already believed in and responded. He received the call, and then he became a believer, then he called others. وَعَمِلَ صَالِحًا فِي إِجَابَتِهِ. And he did righteous good deeds while accepting the da'wah and the call. He says, فَهَذَا حَبِيبُ اللَّهِ هَذَا وَلِيُّ اللَّهِ. This is the one that is loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is waliyullah. And this is how a person perfects himself, which is maqam al-da'wah. Maqam al-da'wati ila Allah afdalu maqamat al-abd. He says the state of a da'wah to Allah is the best state that a person can be in. قال تعالى وأنه لما قام عبد الله يدعوه كادوا يكونون عليه لبادا. عبد الله يدعوه. And this is the job of the messengers of Allah. ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded, and the different levels of the people. But again, as we said, this is how the da'wah related to the ilm is like the soul and the body. They are never to be separated. And once we see that people would separate the da'wah from al-ilm, this is one of the clear paths to deviation. The da'wah has to be based on knowledge, not based on ignorance, but based on the ilm of قال Allah, قال Rasulullah, قال الصحابة. And that's how it becomes in the highest level. And with the ilm, the da'wah will be done in the right way. And a person would not compromise his deen because of the da'wah. The da'wah is a mean, and to be upon the ilm is a goal. When someone would make the da'wah a goal, that means the goal is the da'wah? No. The da'wah is a mean to establish the deen. And the deen is the goal. And as a result of that, a person would understand that guidance is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and their job is to convey the da'wah and the content of the da'wah with ilm and with the proper etiquettes and manners, which is also part of al-ilm, and what to say and what to say, not to say, and things of that nature. We'll stop here inshallah ta'ala, and we'll continue inshallah ta'ala tomorrow only, and then after that Friday inshallah with the Risala of Ibn Rajab and the khashya of Allah being from the ilm, إنما يخشى الله من عباده علماء. But tomorrow inshallah ta'ala, something of what he mentioned in this book of Miftah Dar al-Sa'ada that was not mentioned in the Wasiyah of Ali radiallahu anhu. Anything that needs to be clarified or anything that is not clear?
So we have this thing translated into English.
Wallahi, I do not know. The book is not. I don't think the book is translated. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't know if it's translated or not. I have no idea. Da'wah. Da'wah from a dua. And a dua is to call. So, and whether a person, like you make dua to Allah, you're calling upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And da'wah ila Allah, قل هذه سبيلي أدعو إلى الله. So du'a'ullah is when you make dua to Allah. Dua ilallah, you're calling people to Allah. So you're calling people. You're calling people with one's speech and one's actions. You're calling them to Allah, to believe in Allah, that He's the only one worthy of worship, to convey to them what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, to understand the purpose of their life and the details of this in anything. A person giving da'wah for a person to leave the sin, giving da'wah to do the obligations, giving da'wah to the Muslims, to the non-Muslims, to his own family, to his own self. No. And the da'wah, if you're invited for food, for example, that's da'wah. It's a call. So whether you accept it or not. No. Anything? No. Hmm. No. Wallah, it's the effect of da'wah, the effect of al-ilm. There are things beyond one's comprehension, because this is how the affairs of the heart. So, and the matter is upon what's in the heart. So, what's meant by this is the same thing with any acts of good deeds. Like if a person take the path of seeking knowledge, he does not know from the initial stages what's going to happen to him and to his heart. He thinks that, oh, if I seek knowledge, I would be sincerely for the sake of Allah, I'll have great rewards and things like this. But the level of certainty and the level of tranquility in the heart and all of these things, it's a personal taste that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in the hearts of the believers as a way to keep them more and more steadfast upon what they're upon if they are sincere. So this is what he meant by هجم العلم به على حقيقة الأمر. The ilm is not going to take permission from you. That means it's going to go into you and change you and take care of you by the will of, which is the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as a result of the sincerity of the abd. Exactly like when the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, hadith Qudsi, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, من تقرب إلي شبرا تقربت إليه ذراعا. Whoever comes, draw himself nearer to me one hand span, I will come closer to him one arm length. ومن تقرب إلي باعا تقربت إليه ذراعا. ومن تقرب إلي ذراعا تقربت إليه باعا. And whoever comes to me closer one arm length, I would come to him one باع. Al-ba' is the distance between the two fingers when you stretch your arm like this. ومن أتاني يمشي, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and whoever comes to me walking, أتيت هرولة. I will come to him running. So how to understand that? The reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this life, more firmness upon steadfastness upon the deen. And this steadfastness upon the deen is not just the physical action. It's the steadfastness of the heart that makes the physical actions firm. Otherwise, if the heart is not upon this, he might lose it. So that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala يثبت الله الذين آمنوا بالقول الثابت في الحياة الدنيا في الآخرة. And كذلك لنثبت به فؤادك. For the heart to be firm and steadfast, which is the hearts are by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the same thing with the meanings of the soul. So the rewards in this life is beyond what a person can hold to or something physical that he would see. نعم. التفكر والتدبر, the best ones to make tafakkur and reflection and thinking are the people of knowledge or with knowledge. So having the knowledge can be an ayah, can be hadith, and then the person reflect upon it. You know, like for example, the Prophet ﷺ said, وَحُجِبَتِ الْجَنَّةُ بِالْمَكَارِهِ وَحُجِبَتِ النَّارُ بِالشَّهَوَاتِ. Jannah is covered with dislikes, and the hellfire is covered with the lusts and the desires. belief, yaqeen, and then a person reflects, and then he sees how this life and how truly the Jannah of this life, which is the obedience of Allah that leads to the Jannah, how its makarih is this like. Then he keeps on reflecting upon it, and this is where the tadabbur and the reflection, and the same thing with the Quran, came as a result of a piece of knowledge. And if a person knows La ilaha illallah, and you know the meaning of it, and he reflects upon it, so it has to have the knowledge of Al-Quran and Sunnah for a person to reflect. Otherwise, shaitan has his ways. And if someone just reflects on things without knowledge, then this can be easily means of deviation from the truth. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم ربنا وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. حي على الصلاة. حي على الصلاة. حي على الفلاح.